Kevin, before we talk about Coach Shula and other football topics, first things first, how are you and your family doing during this pandemic? Everybody okay?
Everybody's great. The only problem, first of all, guys, I want everybody to know I'm very fortunate. I have a 50% chance less of getting this disease than anybody out there. And the reason is I can only touch my face with one hand. So, but I've got, including myself, my wife, my son-in-law, and his girlfriend, we're all working from home. It's the first time I ever had to stand in line at my own printer at my own house. But everything's going pretty well. My 11 grandkids are good, and that's all that really matters, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Kevin, we may have talked about this with you the very first time you joined us 5.5 years ago, but while you played the first 2 years of your NFL career with the Eagles, you were actually drafted in 1973 out of Villanova by the Miami Dolphins, fresh off their 1972 perfect season, of course. Their coach, the legendary Don Shula, who just left us recently. Tell us about your time with Coach Shula.
Well, it was a really unique experience. First of all, here I am. I'm a junior and senior in college, and I watched 2 Super Bowls that the Miami Dolphins have won. Or were in. They got beat the first one, then they won the second one. And here I am at a Villanova basketball game during the draft. And the only way we got draft, information was by telephone. The 6th round had gone by. It looked like the 7th round was going to be 7 through 14. They had 14 rounds in those days. Was going to go the second day. I was very disappointed, and I walked down to the basketball game on the Villanova campus. And at halftime, I was tapped on the shoulder, and our athletic director, Jim Murray, was waving to me to come up. And I came up, and Don Shula was on the phone, and he said, "We've just taken you as the first guy in the 7th round." I was the 160th player taken. And what was really cool about it is, dejected as I was, Chet, walking down to the field house thinking, darn, I was hoping it would happen today. Everybody was rooting for me to happen. We kind of left the party atmosphere in my room back at the dorm. Well, I get back into the arena. The basketball team is warming up, and the announcer announces it over the phone. And it couldn't have been better than if I had planned it. It was in the arena. Everybody was cheering me. It was really great. But I get the call, and, it was almost a surreal situation talking to Coach Shula. He was a legend in my mind. And here they had come off the 1972 season, undefeated. I don't know if you saw, but they have been picked as the best NFL team ever by some standard that did it, and rightfully so. That team in 1971 won 12-4-1. The next year they won 17-0, and then in 73, I'm the last guy cut, they win another Super Bowl and they go 15-2. So how about for a 3-year record? And I haven't checked this out, but 44-6-1's not bad.
Wow.
No. Well, hey, Kevin, I had an opportunity, actually, a stroke of luck at a memorabilia show. I was kind of in the back room, and I had a chance to talk with Larry Little, Manny Fernandez, and Larry Zonka, and talking about Coach Shula and about how he was so, what's the right word? I can't think of the right word. He wouldn't let anybody know anything. He closed all the doors. He closed practices. He was so self-conscious that anybody would find out anything, that he was off the charts crazy.
I'll tell you, Bill, you just brought up something I haven't thought of in years. I was down for the North-South Shrine game, and it was in Miami, and they were practicing, and it was 1972. It was December of 1972. They played it in Miami, North-South Shrine game. I'm representing the North from Villanova, and my uncle came to watch practice, and we only had a morning practice. And that afternoon, he said, let's go down and watch the Dolphins practice. We went down to Biscayne College. Just the 2 of us got out of a car. I, bluffed my way through the security guy saying I was a potential Dolphin coming up, just, baloney in him. We're standing at the fence, and Don Shula himself came over and said, guys, practice is closed. And he asked us to leave very politely. And so I can believe that, because then, it was really crazy when I got drafted. I knew where the training site was, all that. It was really a deja vu comeback. But, he was very secure. I'll tell you something. One of the funniest things I ever heard said about Coach Shula and how smart he was. He was a very smart coach, was said by Bum Phillips. You remember Bum Phillips from the Houston Oilers. And Bum said, he could take yours team and beat Maya's team, and he could take Maya's team and beat yours team. You know, he was just that kind of guy where he was really attention to detail. One thing about Coach Shula, I'll tell you, he was really tough, but he was fair and consistent. And as I went on to professional life in corporations and stuff, one of the leadership qualities that I admired most was if you were fair and consistent, people really respected you. They didn't have to love you, but they respected you. And Don Shula had that respect from every player down there.
Now, he, of course, was still just in his 40s at that time. Did you get to talk with him later after you left the Dolphins, after they cut you? Did you get to, you know, hang out with him at some point in the future? Did you reminisce with him about your time there?
Well, he remembered me. He was a Catholic, a very good Catholic. And we were at Biscayne College, and they had mass there every morning. And I'd go occasionally, like maybe 2 days a week. And he was there every day. So that gave us a little bit of bonding. And he had also been to my high school when he was at Virginia, recruiting kids from my high school, Salesianum, to go to Virginia. And he tried to get the head coach from Salesianum to come down when he was with the Baltimore Colts. So we had those things in common. But, you know, to answer your question, Chet, he was when I got cut, usually the defensive coordinator is the guy that says, hey, get your playbook, you've been traded, you've been cut, whatever. They asked me to go down and see Coach Shula. It was 1 week before the opening season. And that was truly odd. And I was on all the special teams getting ready for the first game. And the veterans for the first time were talking to me and saying things like, hey, kid, looks like you made the team. And I didn't want to believe it because they knew there was one more cut coming up. And sure enough, when I went into Shula's office, he said, you're a very unlucky guy today. He said, I got a call from Joe Paterno last night, a guy by the name of Bruce Bannon, who was a second-round draft choice with the Jets. He flushed out as a linebacker. He couldn't backpedal like they wanted him to. Now, if you remember, we had a guy in the 53 defense, and I'm trying to think of his last name, and he was a hybrid defensive end linebacker, and now they're all over the league. Right. And Bruce Bannon was big enough to play the defensive end part. I wasn't. And he said, if I didn't get this call last night, and I trust Joe Paterno, he said he could be the backup for our 53 guy. He said, you would be on this team today. Because he saw my head down here, and he came over, he picked my chin up, and he said, hey, listen, you didn't get cut by the Pottstown Firebirds. You just got cut by the world champion Miami Dolphins. Somebody's going to pick you up. Boy, did that make me feel better. And, you know, as I look back now, guys, Harold Carmichael is going into the Hall of Fame. The only Eagle that I played with in 3 years or 2.5 years that I played with that's is a Hall of Famer. When I was in that camp, they had 6. Larry Zonka, Bob Greasy, Larry Little, Nick Bonaconti, Paul Warfield, and Jim Langer, the center. On top of that, Don Shula made the Hall of Fame, and general manager Bobby Beathard, who drafted me, made the Hall of Fame. Wow, what kind of company was I in?
Wow. Hey, Kevin, I wanted to ask you, as the accolades came in for Coach Shula, you know, recently when he passed, hearing the guys reminded me a lot of Coach Vermeil. It's almost like, you know, he was a taskmaster, if that's the right word to use, but the respect that came afterwards, maybe, was off the charts. And I feel like the Eagles, a lot of you former Eagles feel that way about Coach Vermeil, the same way that the ex-Dolphins feel about Coach Shula.
Those two, you know, that's Bill, you brought up a great comparison. Those two guys were alike in so many ways. Their work ethic was incredible, and they also put the teams through work ethic. Our practices in Miami in 1973 were usually in 90-degree heat plus. We went out at 10 in the morning, or 9 o'clock in the morning, and we came in at 11:30. So 2.5-hour practices in the morning heat, and then that in the afternoon we went from 3 to 5:30. 2.5 hour practice in the afternoon, full pads, full hitting, and no water on the field. Now that changed the following year in '74 when they made some big changes, but it was really tough. It was like going through, some kind of Marine camp, and they watched you to see if you could take it. And the one thing about Coach Vermeil and Coach Shula, they both remind me of this. People don't, as a leader, as a coach, as a manager, people don't care about how much you know until people know about how much you care. Those guys knew what they were doing, but they cared about you as a human being. And, you said to me, did I ever run into Shula afterwards? I did. I ran into him 3 times, and all 3 times he acknowledged me, knew my name, wanted to know what was going on, just surprised the heck out of me. I was one of 1,000 guys that went through his training camps, and he remembered my name. It was just very, very special.
Pretty cool. Well, Kevin, the Eagles coach in 1973 and 74 was Mike McCormick. You were gone from Philly by the time Coach Vermeil arrived in 76.
Right.
Refresh my memory. How did you and Coach Vermeil end up becoming such great friends?
Well, it's a funny story, and it's in my book, of course, but my father bugged me so bad because I hadn't heard in 2 weeks. I had no NFL teams had any interest in me or had called my agent. And I had a very top-notch agent. And my father every morning would say, if I was you, Kev, I'd just go up there and tell Mike McCormick that I got cut by the world champion Miami Dolphins, and could I have a tryout? I said, Dad, that's not the way you do things. He got under my skin so bad, I said, tomorrow I'm going up. I went up, I sat in the stands at Veterans Stadium, watched practice, I jumped the fence. I went over to Mike McCormick, who was talking to Boyd Dowler, the receiver coach, the great Hall of Famer from Green Bay. And I stuttered. I said, Coach, my name is KEVIN REILLY, and I just got released by the Miami Dolphins, and I was wondering if you could give me a tryout. And then I felt like, what is he going to say? And he went, hold on a second. He said, how did you get in here? And one thing led to another, and he brought Jim Catkavage, who was the player scout, over. Make a long story short, he said, bring your shoes up tomorrow, and we'll try you out. They tried me out, and that afternoon I signed a contract with them.
Wow.
And it was just incredible. So when I got cut by the New England Patriots, I went up to Widener College. I pulled the same stunt, and I got a hold of Vermeil. Vermeil took my name down. He was on his way to dinner. It was after the afternoon practice. But because I was the player representative, which I think was one of the reasons I got traded to New England, they didn't want a rabble-rouser like me back on the team. And he told me later on that he got a bad report that I was like a shop steward. And I really wasn't, but that's the way it went. So that's how I got to meet the coach. And then we had so many friends in common, and I went to so many things that we became very, very good friends.
Great.
Very good. Well, hey, Kevin, we're going to run out of time. So I want to be sure that we talk about your book. You've still got that going. You've got the hard copy out now. Let everyone know how they can get a hold of that. It is a super duper read.
What really people want to hear from me, and I'll tell you, you can get it on Amazon. All you have to do is go on Amazon and look up Tackling Life. But the other thing you can do, if you go on Facebook and you send me a message, I can send you an autographed, personalized copy, and I'll just put a little invoice in it in a self-addressed envelope that'll come back to me. I'm a very trusting soul. I've done this for over 100 books. And nobody has not paid. Everybody has paid. So, I mean, I'm willing to do it. And it's something special about having the author sign a book and personalizing it. And it's called Tackling Life. We're in the 2nd edition. We sold the first 4,000 copies, and hopefully we'll sell the next 4. There it is right there.
Yep. It's a great book.
It's really doing much better than I thought. As a matter of fact, I told the president of Villanova, Father Donahue, that I wanted my C+ in English changed to an A because I'm now an author.
Well, hey, Kevin, you when I saw you last was over at a book signing over there at the store in Delaware. You haven't obviously been able to do that recently. Are you trying to get some things lined up for when we get back out?
Yeah, well, I've been doing a lot of videos because a lot of the organizations, I do motivational speaking too, and a lot of the organizations that I have spoken to, I've asked them, would they like a little 60-second motivational talk? And it really started with nurses and doctors at one of the hospitals. and I just went on telling them what warriors they were. And that shirt I have that says, "Tough times don't last, tough people do." Well, I would send those out or wear it. And, from those things there, I'm just trying to stay relevant. But I'm going to have a big, if you look on Facebook in about a week, I'm going to have a big sale for the book for Father's Day. And hopefully we'll move some copies that way. But, as soon as we get back into working here, I think things are going to be fine again.
Hey, Kevin, just an aside, Bill and I have been doing our little show now for just over 6 years, and you are our very first ever 15-time visitor, one more than the great Ray Dittinger.
Oh my gosh, I am to be in Ray Dittinger's shadow is just unbelievable. And I'll tell you, Bill hasn't done bad for a guy that went to Collingdale High School.
I try to keep him in line.
Yeah, you guys do a great job.
One last thing for you. I don't know if you heard us talking on our lead in. We did our little Mount Rushmore the other over the last handful of weeks.
Yep.
We came up with
I'll follow you guys.
5 guys. You got 5. You had to have seen them. See, we didn't see Bednarik. You're being a year or two older than us, may have seen Bednarik. So we didn't include him in our list. But you got 5 favorites?
Oh yeah, Johnny Callison, Mike Schmidt, Wilt Chamberlain, Chuck Bednarik, and no one would ever guess my 5th. Ike Kelly, the greatest special teamer ever to play the game. Number 51 in your program, number 1 in your heart.
Ike Kelly, I remember him.
Great. All right. Well, hey, Kevin, we certainly appreciate you coming back with us for the 15th time. And one other thing, too, on our website, PhillyPressboxRadio.com, your book is still there. They can click on that when they go to our website. It's down, it's down toward the bottom of the page. Click on that. It goes to Amazon, and they can get their books there as well.
All right. Well, thanks, guys, for having me anytime. And I want to come on. I got to go on 2 more times to beat Ray.
Yeah. We'll keep you in the clubhouse lead. Absolutely.
All right, Kevin. Hey, appreciate it as always, and stay healthy, and I'll see you roaming around Delaware.
All right, buddy. Be good.
Thanks,
All
Kevin.
right.